Okay.
All right, let's start with a new poll that shows Donald Trump has widened his lead over Florida Governor Ron DeSantis for the 2024 Republican nomination. The latest Quinnipiac poll finds Trump with 46% support from Republican and Republican-leaning voters, followed by DeSantis with 32%. Trump's 14-point lead is up from 6-point last month. However, when it comes to a hypothetical matchup against Joe Biden, it is a different story. The poll finds Biden leads Trump in a head-to-head matchup, 49 to 45%. When matched up against DeSantis, the president is in a virtual dead heat, 47 to 46%, which falls within the poll's margin of error. What do you make of that, Joe?
What I make of it is this is what we've been talking about since 2017. And that is that what's good for Donald Trump in the Republican primary is bad for the Republican Party in the general election. So here you have Donald Trump once again looking like he can run away with this race, doing better against Ron DeSantis, but doing worse in the general election. David Drucker, it's so a year before 2024. I find the most fascinating thing about this presidential race is you have the presumptive nominees in both parties, one a sitting president, with people in their own party going, I like him. I'm very grateful for what he's done. I hope we can find somebody else. Democrats are saying that about Joe Biden wherever you go. They do it every 2 weeks.
Not.
They do it every.
Not.
Joe Biden wins the midterms and they finally stop. 2 weeks later, they're like, oh, we got to find somebody else. Joe Biden gives a great State of the Union address. They're like, okay, well, I think he's pretty good. 2 weeks later, oh, we got to find somebody else.
Well, they need to shut up.
But Nikki, you know this is the reality. And what's so fascinating is, I mean, that's been happening to Biden his whole career. He's been underestimated. On the Republican side, David, I know you've heard this too. People going, Donald Trump, we're grateful for what he's done. It's time to move on. And yet, here we are in both parties. I suspect we're probably going to get a rematch of 2020, even though there are whispers in both parties about how they'd prefer somebody else.
Right. Well, look, Joe, I mean, you were right about the constant whispers that aren't always whispers, frankly. I mean, there's just so much conversation about a desire on the part of voters in both parties. And I talk to voters about this all the time. Even on the Democratic side, they're pleased with how Biden has governed. They think he's done an admirable job. And yet they keep talking about this idea that it would be great to have somebody who was just not 80 years old. And I hear the same thing, but in a different way about Donald Trump, in that even a lot of Republican voters that wish he would have won, that voted for him, and that wouldn't necessarily be all that upset if he were president again, are worried that he cannot win a general election. I've talked to Republicans who are supporting, whether it's Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis, and I'll say, are you just finished with Trump? And they will tell me, no, I'm not necessarily finished with Trump. I just don't think he can win. And then they'll have all sorts of reasons why he can't win. Usually it's, bozos like me in the media or somebody are giving him a hard time, and that's why he can't win. But fair enough, I'm pragmatic about it, so can't we just move on? I think the question then is, if Ron DeSantis is going to run, once he is an actual candidate, can he take the fight to Trump? Because that's what Republican primary voters want to see. And does becoming an actual candidate change some of the polling? And I think it's too early to decide that Trump is a de facto nominee. He is a front runner and a strong front runner. But becoming a candidate changes voters' perception of you. We saw that, in fact, in 2016 with both Trump but also Ted Cruz, who ended up as the runner-up. It started at something like 5%, and everybody said at the time, hey, what happened to this guy? He was supposed to be a big deal, and he wasn't quite the biggest deal, but he sure finished a lot higher than he started, but so did Trump.
Yeah, and Mahjong Fast, thanks to Trumpists in Congress, Trumpists on Fox News, family members who watch Fox News, people who still stand with Trump, the nonsensical is still completely mainstream. I mean, we are desensitized at this point in so many different ways as it pertains to Donald Trump. Now we've got a candidate being supported by a number of the entities that I just mentioned to you, even though he has at least 4 legitimate legal challenges facing him and potential indictments. And yet you say the GOP elites simply can't wish him away. He just can't. I mean, they just can't get rid of him.
Yeah, and I would say the problem with comparing Biden to Trump is that Biden has won 3 elections. And Trump has lost 3 elections.
Biden actually wins.
Right. I mean, the truth is, I mean, Trump is, has all these legal jeopardy, but he's also just does not win, right? And his candidates, even more than that, Trumpism doesn't scale. We see this again and again. And a lot of these candidates want to run again. And by the way, their new thing is that they think they won. Right? They'll say, well, actually, I won. So we are getting further and further removed from reality. And I ultimately think, I don't know how you play chess when you're playing some other game, when you're playing checkers.
That's a great point.
Mike Barnicle, it would be as if the Red Sox had a bad year last year, let's say, finished in last place, and then had an offseason where they dealt as if they won the World Series and didn't pick up anybody. Wait, that happened. But anyway, I love though. Molly has just put what I've been trying to say for 7 years perfectly.
Into 8 seconds, by the way.
I love this. Trumpism, Republicans, I've been trying to help you. Maybe Molly can help you. Trumpism doesn't scale. It doesn't.
Where's Carrie Lake?
It's a cottage industry
and her conspiracy
that makes
theories.
Hundreds of millions of dollars for Donald Trump raising money, makes millions of dollars for Trumpists with podcasts, makes tens of millions of dollars for Trumpists that are lying about January 6th and lying about the election, makes millions of dollars for everybody else out there that's on the Trump wagon because they know that's how they get viewers, that's how they get clicks, that's how they get listens. But when it comes to general elections, Molly nailed it. Trumpism doesn't scale.
You know, Joe, perhaps the most interesting aspect of anything you'll encounter in the world is human nature. And what we have here is a selection of people, a substantial number of people who have been deluded into thinking and believing that they won. That they won. It's astounding. I mean, people of some competence.
Can I ask you, Mike? Can I ask you?
Anything.
I'm actually moving on this. Okay, because I have so many friends and relatives who have voted for Trump, bought in to the lie, supposedly. The more I talk to them, the more I don't think they really believe it. I really don't. I think they're owning the libs. I think they're owning the media. I think they know it's provocative. It's fun for them to say. But the more I talk to them, the more I realize they understand it's all rank horse crap. They don't believe it in their hearts of hearts. They really don't.